Stop living small. Your thoughts command your reality. You were not born to blend in. You were not placed on this earth to shrink yourself, to tame your voice, or to play second fiddle in the symphony of life. You were born with fire, with the spark of the infinite, with the sacred burden of potential resting heavy on your chest. And every time you doubt yourself, every time you silence that inner roar, every time you say, I can't, when your soul is screaming, I must, you betray the truth of who you are. The cage you live in, it was built in your mind long before it showed up in your life. No steel bars, no locks, just quiet, deadly thoughts. Be realistic. Don't dream too big. Stay in your lane. But tell me, who decided the size of your lane? Who gave the world permission to measure your worth with a ruler it barely understands? Greatness begins the moment you decide to reject the script you were handed and write your own. Understand this, your thoughts are not whispers, they are commands. Silent architects building your future brick by brick. Your beliefs shape your actions, and your actions sculpt your destiny. So if your life feels small, if your days feel hollow, if your dreams feel distant, it's not because the world is unfair. It's because somewhere along the way you started thinking like a prisoner when you were meant to think like a king. When Thomas Edison was laughed out of classrooms as a boy, he didn't believe he was stupid. He believed he was misunderstood. That belief didn't just power his confidence, it powered the light bulb that now illuminates the world. When Carnegie stood at the steel mills and saw smoke and soot, he didn't see hardship, he saw opportunity. And when Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination, he didn't stop dreaming. He built an empire from the ashes of rejection. These men weren't special because the world gave them chances. They were special because they commanded reality to bend. They thought differently. They believed obsessively. And that belief, unyielding, unshakable, became a force of nature, not because they were born powerful, but because they refused to think small. So the question isn't, can you? The question is, will you think like they did? Most people never fail because they aimed too high and missed. No, they fail because they aimed too low and hit dead center. They spend their lives climbing ladders only to find they were leaning against the wrong wall. Comfortable jobs, predictable routines, quiet desperation dressed up as being responsible. And the tragedy? They think that's safety. But there is no safety in a small life, only decay. Your mind, your incredible, limitless, divine mind, it cannot flourish in a cage of self-doubt. Every genius, every creator, every titan of history had to face the same choice, to think like everyone else or to think like themselves. To believe in what is or to believe in what could be. If you want to change your life, stop looking outside of you. Start by taking dominion over your thoughts. Because the most powerful thing you will ever do is choose what to believe. Clarity is not given, it is forged. Like steel hammered in the fire of discomfort, pressure, and silence. You won't find it scrolling. You won't find it chasing every distraction. You find it when you sit alone with your vision and refuse to let the world shrink it. Your vision must scare you. If it doesn't, it's not worthy of you. The world is overflowing with people waiting for permission. Permission to speak up. Permission to start. Permission to shine. But the ones who rise, the ones who lead, the ones who build legacies, they don't ask. Yes, they decide. They command. They move like destiny itself is waiting on them. And maybe it is. Henry Ford didn't ask the world if it was ready for the automobile. He built it. He didn't wait for validation. He brought the future crashing into the present. That is what happens when belief meets clarity. Because belief without clarity is daydreaming. But belief with clarity? That's power. You see, most people wander through life like ships with broken compasses. They sail the seas of opinion, blown by the winds of other people's expectations, afraid to drop anchor into the depths of purpose. But those who live fully, those who rise, they don't drift, they drive. And that drive begins in the mind. So if you're tired of living small, stop thinking small. Command your reality like your life depends on it. Because it does. Because here's the brutal truth. They told you to be humble when they really meant be invisible. They told you to be patient when they really meant be passive. And they told you to be realistic when they were too afraid to dream themselves. But you don't need their permission anymore. You need discipline. Discipline is not punishment. It's the highest form of self-respect. It's the decision, made quietly in the dark, to rise before the sun, to say no when it's easier to say yes, to walk toward resistance when comfort is begging you to sit down. Every champion you've ever admired was forged in that same fire. Muhammad Ali didn't become the greatest in the ring. He became the greatest at 5 a.m., guns, in sweat-soaked silence, when no one was watching. Nikola Tesla wasn't lightning in a bottle. He became the lightning by obsessing over his craft while the world mocked his isolation. Oprah Winfrey, born into hardship, ridiculed, underestimated, yet she outthought her reality. Outbelieved it. She learned to command the moment. That's discipline. That's power. And it starts in your thoughts. Because thoughts repeated become beliefs. And beliefs repeated become behavior. And behavior repeated becomes your identity. So if you want to change who you are, change what you repeat. Start commanding new thoughts. Speak power into your soul before the world speaks fear into your mind. Say it, I am done living small. Say it until it becomes your new gravity, until the old, weak, fragile version of yourself breaks under the weight of your new truth. But don't stop there, because belief alone isn't enough. Action is where reality bends. There is no substitute for movement. Dreams without action are hallucinations. Vision without steps is just fantasy. Your success will not come wrapped in motivation. It will be carved in motion. You don't need more information. You don't need another course, another plan, another perfect moment. What you need is to act like your life is on the line, because in many ways it is. The dream inside you has an expiration date. And if you do not act, life will move on without you. So act while your blood is hot. Act while your fears are loud, because action drowns them out. Act not because you feel ready, but because you're sick of living like you're not. And when you move, when you step into the world with boldness, the universe begins to respond. Not instantly, not always the way you expect, but consistently. Every bold action is a signal, a declaration: I am no longer available for the life I've outgrown. And just when you think the path is too hard, that's when you must remember this. Adversity isn't your enemy. It's your training ground. Resilience is the gift given only to those who have been knocked down so many times they learn to stop counting. Abraham Lincoln failed in business, lost in elections, suffered heartbreak after heartbreak, yet he refused to let those defeats define him. Because his vision was bigger than his wounds. His purpose was louder than his pain. And that is the essence of greatness, not perfection, but persistence. The resilience is not about bouncing back. It's about refusing to break. Every time you rise again, you become more dangerous to the limits that once defined you. You become a threat to mediocrity. You become a walking declaration of what's possible. And the world doesn't know what to do with someone who refuses to stay down. Be that person. Be the one who keeps going when others sit down. But be the one who builds when others wait. Be the one who commands their thoughts and shapes their destiny with every breath. And when you stumble, and you will, don't curse the fall. Bless it. Learn from it. Grow from it. Let your failures refine you, not define you. Because failure is not the opposite of success. It's the training ground of champions. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Fred Smith, founder of FedEx, received a failing grade on the very business plan that would later become a multi-billion-dollar empire. Every time the world said no, they answered with "watch me." That's the energy you need now, not permission, but fire. And fire doesn't apologize. Because fire never asks if the wood is dry enough to burn, it consumes. And so must you. But here's what most people miss. Power without gratitude turns into arrogance. Drive without appreciation turns into destruction. So after you rise, after you act, after you bleed for your vision, you must remember to give thanks. Gratitude is not softness. It's not a cliche. It's the fuel that keeps your soul aligned with the infinite. When you begin to thank the struggle, when you can look life in the face, bruised and exhausted, and still say, thank you, you become untouchable. Because now you're not just chasing success, you're embodying wisdom. Carnegie didn't rise because the steel was easy to forge. He rose because he saw every hardship as a gift, every obstacle as an opportunity to grow. That's not luck. That's mindset. It's the difference between the man who curses the storm and the one who learns to sail through it. And life will test your ability to adapt. Because no matter how clearly you see the vision, the path will not unfold in a straight line. You will lose people. You will outgrow rooms. Doors will close. Some dreams will change form or dissolve entirely. Let them. Because adaptability is not giving up, it's leveling up. It's understanding that life isn't a blueprint, it's a living, breathing current. And those who flow with it, those who learn to pivot without losing purpose, they become unstoppable. Bruce Lee said it best, be water. Water carves through mountains not by force, but by patience, by consistency, by refusing to quit. That is how you must think. That is how you must live. Fluid, fierce, focused. But don't confuse adaptability with passivity. You are not here to accept a life you didn't choose. You're here to reshape it. And that reshaping begins every time you stand in front of the mirror and declare, my thoughts are not passengers. They are the captains, and I choose where this ship is going. Learning is the compass that will keep you on course. Because no matter how far you climb, you must remain a student. Ego is the enemy of expansion. The second you think you know enough, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start dying. Every mistake is a lesson in disguise. Every failure is a class you were meant to take. Life doesn't punish, it teaches. If you're willing to listen, everything becomes a message, a lesson, a step forward. Think of Edison. Over 1,000 failed attempts to create the light bulb. And when asked if he felt like a failure, he said no, he had simply discovered 1,000 ways not to do it. That's not genius. That's mindset mastery. So ask yourself, how do you speak to yourself when things go wrong? How do you frame the loss? Is it the end or is it data? Your answers will decide your altitude. Because the greatest breakthroughs come not in the victories, but in the moments you wanted to quit and didn't. The moment you feel like you've hit your ceiling, that's the moment your new life is waiting behind the wall of pain. Most never get there. They knock, they doubt. They walk away. But not you. You tear the damn wall down. Because you've learned your thoughts are weapons. Your mind is your kingdom. Your vision is law. And you were never meant to beg for a seat at the table. You were meant to build the table, hammer in hand, crown already on your head. So now stand up. Not just with your body, but with your soul. Stand up in your mind. Stand up in your spirit. Let the world feel the weight of a decision made in silence. Let your doubt hear the war drums pounding in your chest. Because this is the moment. Right here, right now. This is the line where the old version of you dies. The version that played small. The version that waited. The version that made excuses. Apologized for dreaming. Apologized for being too loud, too bold, too much. Kill it. Not with anger. Not with rage. But with finality. You are no longer available for mediocrity. You are no longer available for watered-down dreams, half-effort habits, and silent suffering. You were not born to decorate a cage. You were born to tear the damn thing apart. You were born to command, to create, and to lead, to build. And your thoughts are the blueprint. If you think small, you live small. If you speak doubt, you breathe fear. If you expect nothing, that's exactly what you'll receive. But when you raise your thoughts, your life rises with them. When you stop living like a mistake and start living like a miracle, the universe leans in closer and whispers, finally you remembered. Do you think it was an accident that you were born with imagination? Or with vision? With the ability to think a thought so big it scares you? No. It's your divinity. That's your spark. That's the God force within you calling you out of the shadows and into the throne room of your destiny. You command your reality not with noise, not with show, but with the quiet violence of belief. Belief that refuses to bend to circumstance. That's a belief that says, even if no one claps, I go anyway. A belief that builds even when it's tired. That writes even when it's doubted. That leads even when the road vanishes beneath your feet. Because that's what champions do. They walk where no map exists, and then they draw one behind them for the rest to follow. And that will be your legacy. Not the cars, not the titles, not the applause, but the truth you live by. That your thoughts held the keys to a kingdom no one else could see, and you opened the gates with fire in your heart and your name written in thunder. So stop living small. Stop folding your wings because they make others uncomfortable. Stop apologizing for wanting more, needing more, being more. You were not sent here to survive. You were sent here to reign, to dominate your doubts, to silence your fears, to take your thoughts wild, untamed, massive, and breathe them into a life so big it makes the heavens pause. Because the world doesn't need another follower. It needs a giant. And that giant is you. Now go. Think like a god. Act like a king. Move like destiny itself is waiting on your command. Because it is. And it always was.